Hi there! In a world where nothing is certain, that means anything is possible, right? If you want to fulfill your dreams and desires, you are in the right place. You absolutely can have a life of happiness. Everyone deserves an abundance of love, laughter, success, health and wealth. I'm Tara Chadzakis and you're listening to the Happy, Inspired, Motivated podcast. The show that brings you meditation, mindset and motivation. So start by giving yourself permission to be awesome. Sit back, relax and enjoy the show. Hi and welcome to this week's episode of Happy, Inspired, Motivated. Today I have the honour of interviewing a wonderful young lady called Megan Johnson. Megan is a Thrive mindset coach, an online education expert, a blogger and also a podcast host. Megan has dedicated her time and energy to helping others through leadership development and educating clients of all ages across the globe to develop themselves and reach their full potential. So let me start by welcoming Megan and letting her tell us a little bit more about what she does. So, hi Megan, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you, Tara. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm so glad that you decided to join us here today and give my listeners lots and lots of amazing information about thriving in their 20s.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on today.
You're welcome. So you have a website called twentiesthrive.com. So why are you working with people? Because I think it's between 18 and 29. That's who you're aiming for through your website. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And why specifically that age group? What about us oldies?
So the main reason that I decided to work with 18 to 29-year-olds is that I think there are many people like myself who have gone through the education system, and unfortunately it's not really helped us to really decide and know what we want to do with our lives and ourselves. And I think it's a very important time of life to really get to know yourself, your strengths, what you love doing, what you're passionate about. And that's sort of how I ended up getting into to mindset coaching in this area, because I myself went through this process of I went through the education system where you're told, you've got to get these qualifications, do as well as you can, and then go into employment. And then you go to university and the same thing goes, and you come to, either second year of university like I did, where you're completely disillusioned with what you're doing and you have no idea where you're aiming for. And you end up having almost like an existential crisis. I think this is that's the time when you can start really feeling like you don't really know your purpose. So that was why I realized that was the age group that I wanted to work with primarily. I do love working with people who are older than that. There's no setback from me, for not working with people who really need help, and I'm happy to do that. But for me, I think it was really important to try and help people who are going through that I don't know what my purpose is. And I think that's a really important time of life to find that purpose.
It is. I mean, when I was 17, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I'd spent most of my teenage years not going to school because I was a bit of a rebel. I used to knock off quite a lot.
Oh, rebel.
Ended up at college, did a course that I thought I kind of fancied. Didn't like that, but I finished it anyway, and then went to university because everybody else was going to university. So I just thought, what can I do at university? So again, I did a degree. And then when I'd finished all that, I was like, well, don't really know what I want to do with myself now.
It's
crazy. You go through the whole education system, but actually you're not going anywhere specific. And I
Mm.
think if I had had somebody like you at that age to help me figure out all the shit in my head and wondering what I was going to do with my life, that would have been
Yeah.
so much better, because I don't think I would have gone down the same path. I think I would have, I don't know what I would have done, to be honest, but I maybe not what I did.
Yeah.
I might have done, but it would be good to get clear about it, because like you say, people get into the education system, but they don't really get the help that they need to work out what they want to do themselves, really, do they?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a lot of people might say that this is more like a career advice sort of thing, but I don't really see it as that at all. I don't say, oh, you should go into law or something like that, and this is how you get there. I'm far more about, well, what are you passionate about? What do you love doing? What is holding you back from going for being your own boss, becoming an entrepreneur, all those sorts of ideas, and helping people iron out, what's really holding them back from doing something different to what the education system has suggested for them.
Yeah, and like you say, when you're in education, you have careers advisors and stuff, but that's, I don't know, I think it's quite generic as well, isn't it? Because they say, oh, well, you're good at this subject, you like this subject, maybe you could do this, but what you're passionate about may bear no relation whatsoever to a curriculum subject. Like,
Exactly.
we're involved in the coaching community, and that is not something that we could have picked up on at school, because it doesn't exist as a subject. It's something that you learn to become, and or you have a feeling that you're drawn towards it. And I think a lot of people's careers are like that they don't start studying something in school and decide they like it. It's something that they're naturally gifted at, or they're drawn to energetically to that purpose.
Yeah.
So tell me a little
Absolutely.
bit about your what kind of things you've done, and how you what kind of support you had along the way as well.
Well, so I think like yourself, I didn't really find that careers advice was overly useful. Quite honest, I actually thought it was a bit of a waste of time. I think
we're due for an hour.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, at the school that I went to, careers advice wasn't really a thing. I don't really think that we had a careers advisor, or at least if they did, I didn't know who they were. Sort of defeats the point, really. But I went through the works with what sort of careers I wanted to do. I think I went through everything from lawyer to police officer to everything. And when I was at university, my first year, I thought, okay, I'm doing history and ancient history at Russell Group University. Maybe I'll go and do a master's and a PhD in the subject. And actually going to university and studying that subject, actually, it killed the love of that subject for me. I'd always been quite good at it, but it wasn't the type of the way that we were learning and studying the subject sort of killed that love of the subject for me, which was a real shame. So I got quite disillusioned in my second year, not knowing what I wanted to do. And I decided I needed a goal to get me through my degree. I didn't want to quit because I was stubborn, but I knew that I needed something to aim for. There was no way that I'm quite a goal-driven person. So just doing something that hasn't got a purpose is completely, as far as I'm concerned, there's no point in doing it. So I think for me, and having that goal of joining the military is actually what it became. I ended up applying to join the Royal Navy as an officer when I was in my second year. And through my third year, I still had that same goal. I joined the University Royal Naval Unit at my university, which had just started up in my final year. And it was something that I threw myself into, and it was really the thing that got me through my degree, particularly in one piece. I think mentally I was struggling a lot in my second year and my third year too, but having that goal really helped me to focus my energy on something, and so to keep myself on track. But by the time I finished my degree and I'd finished my entire application to go into the Royal Navy, I'd networked a bit and I'd met some, captains and admirals and all sorts of amazingly inspirational people. And, I was set on the idea that I was going to go into the military. But the year after I finished my degree, I got into teaching English as a second language online, and I realized I had a real passion for teaching people. It was something that I felt good when I was doing. I felt like I was helping people. And I don't know, it just, my energy when I was doing it was just huge. Even if I was having a bad day, I would still get in front of the camera, be teaching a student, and I would just feel like I was on it. I can do this. So I actually surprised myself and ended up going back and doing a master's in education, which was a huge surprise to me, because when I left university the first time, I thought, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
And I came out of my master's with a first class master's in education, which again was a huge surprise, because I didn't fail my first degree, but let's say I didn't do all that well with it. And so I ended up going into the education route. So for me, it was a huge change. And I completely ended up in a different place to where I thought I would be 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it, how things change? I mean, when you change something or you learn something, that changes the whole of you.
Yeah.
And you can have different goals coming from that, and it's a bit like walking down a path, isn't it? You don't necessarily have to stay on that path forever. You can take any of the offshoots that come along. You don't have to stay on the plan that you thought you were going for. You don't have to aim for the goal that you originally set out for in the first place. And that's really important.
Definitely.
Because people think, oh, well, I've chosen this path now, I'm heading down that road, I have to complete it. No, you don't. You can make any changes you want as soon as you want to.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people chalk it down to, well, if I don't follow this through, I will be a failure. And they almost absorb that possibility of it being a failure into their identity. I'll be a failure if I don't do this.
But then if a failure is to deprive yourself of your true calling, your true passion, or something that can light up your life, because what you were doing may have been good for you when you were taking your GCSEs or your A levels. Yeah. But it's not necessarily the thing that drives you anymore, because you've changed as a person. You've grown up, you've evolved, you've met different people, you've experienced different things, and that can be a shift. Like you said, you go from history to the Navy to teaching students online. They're completely different career paths, but they needed to be in your path to get you to where you are today.
Yes, definitely. And I think failure, to me, a lot of the people who I know, there is a large majority of them who will not do things because they're afraid of failure. And we all go through a bit of a fixed mindset phase where we look at something and think, oh, I can't do that because I don't think it might not work out. We've set expectations for ourselves, and if it doesn't work out, then we failed. But for me, over the years, I think I've been able to look at things differently and say, well, what if I don't do that? What will the ramifications of not doing that be, instead of not if I do that?
Yeah, definitely. And then failures are just lessons, aren't they? You never fail at anything.
Yeah.
The only time you fail is when you stop trying.
Yes.
And the more you try, you learn new things, and you're better equipped for something else then, aren't you?
Absolutely. And I think resilience, you build a huge amount of resilience when you do fail at things. My personal view of failure is, if you fail correctly, you'll have come out the other side having learned something more about yourself.
That's perfect. Yeah, definitely.
And you can then consistently evolve from that. It's like a cycle. I think people see, their development as a linear progress, and I think it's full of cycles. We'll go around in circles sometimes until we're ready to move further on.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. It's not a line, is it? It's a circle that leads you into a different circle. It's more like what was those things called that when I was when I was younger, you had like a piece of paper and you had this thing on top like a stencil, and you just kept going round and it kept moving and the pen kept making like big swirls.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, life's a bit more like that, I think. Like you've got this massive circle and there's little ones in between, and then there's ones that come off one side and ones that go over the other side. It's a bit like some sort of weird drawing of Mr. Messi from the.
Yeah. Yeah.
So looking at your website, you've got you have something called Mindset Reset. Can you tell me a little bit more about
Yes.
that?
Yes, absolutely. So the Mindset Reset program is all about helping people to realize, to look at their failures, what they see as failures, what they see as things that are holding them back. It's sort of peeling back the layers and really looking at the causality of the ideas and thoughts that they have. And it then goes on to help them to build on that. So use them for more positive thinking. So helping them to see that the failures, just like we've been doing today, really, see that the failures are actually what have brought you to where you are today, to help them to build resilience, explore their own potential, and to really get to the nitty gritty of why they think the way that they think. So I had therapy, 3 or 4 years ago, and the reason why I am doing the reset is that it's not therapy. And I always, will say to people, if you need a therapist, I'm not your person. If you need therapy, it's a different thing to coaching, to mindset coaching.
Yeah.
To reset your mind, you need to really get to the underlying negative thoughts and fears that are really holding you back. And that's what the reset program is there to help people to do, sort of explore themselves and to bust the mind blocks that they have to allow them to move forwards.
Yeah, definitely. And I think people think that life's happening to them, so they don't really have a choice about what they're doing, or the things that they're experiencing, but life is happening for them. So there's a good reason for everything that you experience. And all the self-doubt and the limiting beliefs that you have in your head, they're things that you've heard for a long time from when you were in your childhood. But
Yeah,
you don't have to take those going forward. You don't have to reinforce them in your life, because the more you think that you can't do something or you're not worthy of something, then that's the way it becomes apparent that you're not worthy, or the self-doubt perpetuates itself, doesn't it?
absolutely. And I think if you let your mind, particularly your negative thoughts, control you, then they'll continue to do so. And it'll get more and more difficult as you get older to figure out how your mind works and how to prevent those negative thoughts from spiraling.
Yeah.
And I talk a lot about spiraling, because it's almost like an anxious loop. When you think a negative thought, it can then run away with you. And if you don't learn how to stop that, in my mind, whenever I have a negative thought, I just imagine a stop sign, and it just flashes at me. And then I think, right, okay, no, I've got to move my thoughts onto something more positive. And that helps me to stop giving those thoughts power. And I think if you learn that, the earlier you learn how to do that as a person, then you'll be able to really, I think it will only aid in your success and your ability to build resilience and confidence, and really move forward and take control of your life.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. So the work that you do, you've also recently started recording podcasts. So that's a new
Yeah.
means of people being able to find you and for you to be able to get your message out, which is really, really important. So why did you think, or why did you start your podcast? What attracted you to podcasting?
So I thought about a podcast late in the summer, I think, and I'd been listening to a few podcasts during the lockdown, as most people probably have, to keep their mind working. I like to do productive things, and not just let my mind vegetate by watching constant Netflix all the time and things like that. So I wanted to be more productive, and I was listening to I think it's called No Such Thing as a Fish, but it's like the QI elves. And I was listening to that podcast, and I thought, you know what? A podcast sounds like a really great way of talking through ideas, meeting really inspirational people, and, really building something that could be quite useful and helpful to others.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, I then had a bit of a mind block and thought, no, you can't do that. I don't know anything about podcasts or making podcasts or anything like that. But perhaps a month or so later, I sort of sat myself down and thought, stop being silly. That's just mad. You can learn how to do it. So I started researching it from there, and I was just doing some reading on, what it means to thrive, and I read Dr. Carol Dweck's book on mindset, and I was just fascinated by it. And education for me is, I find it completely fascinating anyway.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll do a podcast that not only speaks to people who are inspirational and who have done inspirational things, but I really want to get down into the nitty gritty of what thriving means to different people, because it means different things to different people.
Yeah,
and I wanted to also look at how does that translate in education? Are we really taught what thriving means when we are in school? Do we ever really learn about the fact that, it's not just education, like learning science, learning maths? There's so much that we're not taught when we're at school. And I thought this would be a really interesting topic to look into and do almost research while I'm doing the podcast. So that's where it sort of came from.
Yeah, I don't know who I was listening to the other day, but they were talking about, so when you're in school, you're not taught to thrive. So for example, he was saying like, an early book that you might read with your children would be, for example, John comes home from work, he's had a hard day at work, he's exhausted, he sits on the sofa. Mm-hmm. And these children are automatically being brainwashed into the fact that, well, you have to go to work all day, you have to come home and you have to have worked really hard. And when you work, you're knackered. So you haven't got the energy to do anything. So that automatically teaches children subconsciously, but that is the way of working. That's their life. That's going to be their life in another 20 years. They're going to go to work, they're going to be exhausted, they're going to come home knackered, and they're going to slouch on the sofa, because that's the way. That's what people do when they leave school, and and that is drummed into them in loads and loads of different ways. That's what they have to look forward to, and that is not, in my honest opinion, teaching them how to thrive. It's teaching them how to survive and how to just run on the treadmill that everyone else is running on. And people need to get off that. They need to get out of the mindset that this is the way it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be that way. For some reason, we've been brainwashed into thinking that's how it is. That is it. You go to work, you're tired, you come home, you go to sleep, you die. That's it. Wow. End of story. How is that?
Yeah, and unfortunately that does seem to be the case. And I think that, I really appreciate teachers, because they have such a hard job. They've got to reach all these targets, and it's primarily focused now more on reaching targets, isn't it, than it is actually teaching young people how to survive in the world as it is today, which is constantly changing. Yeah, exactly. And as you say, learn how to survive. But really, are we teaching them how to survive when the world is constantly changing and the education system is not?
No, the education system is so antiquated. It's unbelievable. I mean, we're still doing, learn all these things for 2 years, revise them overnight, and then go sit in an exam for an hour and a half and show us what you know. I mean, how bizarre is that? How does that show the intelligence of a person? It's absolute madness. And we're still doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And some people do really well in exams, some people don't. And I think it was Einstein that said exams are like asking a fish to climb a tree. We don't have, some of us don't have that strength, but some of us can stand up in front of 50 or 100 people, while those people who are good at exams, they couldn't do that. We would just melt at the front of the room. We've all got different strengths and different skills, and we've got a very industrial way of our education system. Is very industrialized. It's almost like the industrial process, and that's where it came from. The industrial era.
How can you measure people's intelligence by what they can remember and get on paper in an hour and a half? I mean, please.
Exactly.
There's so much more scope for it. And people, the pressure that they're under, they don't do well in exams. I mean, I hated exams, and I don't know anybody who actually enjoys them or who does really well in them, because the pressure that they're under is just horrendous. It's like, well,
Yeah.
this is the culmination of your education. If you don't do well this day, today, then you're screwed. I'm sorry, you can't do anything else with your do you know what I mean? You get these
Yeah.
exams, you just have to stay in school, my love. Yeah, that's really helpful. I really succeed, and then I'm going to go get a job, and I'm going to be knackered when I come home from work because I've worked really hard, and I'm just going to sit on the sofa. Oh my god, what kind of future are we looking forward to? That is not a future of thriving, is it?
No, exactly. And I think from my own personal experience, I personally have tried to use this year and the lockdown to improve myself as much as possible, teach myself new skills,
Yeah.
learn new things. And, it's ended up with me doing a podcast I never ever thought I would do. I've started, Twenties Thrive, which is, the coaching mindset coaching business, which I never thought I would, go back 10 years to when I was in school. No way did I ever think I'd be running my own business. And I'm also, I do a few other things. Like I've set up a little blog called MaggieLouise.com, which helps people to learn how to network, how to, a bit about investing, but not only investing in the stock market, which I also taught myself to do over the summer, and investing in ourselves as well, and knowing when to invest in ourselves. Because I think a lot of us think, well, I've got money, I need to spend it on a new car or something like that. But what about investing it in you? Because you are the one person that, you're the thing that's going to last from when you're 0 to when you die. Material things are great, but how about investing that in you and taking that to yourself to a new level or a new place?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't see the value in investing in themselves. And like, for example, in our industry, coaching, we understand the benefits of coaching because we've worked with coaches, and we know that they can get you to a different mindset at the next level in your business or your life, and it saves you time working out the crap yourself. And it's to support you and give you guidance and show you methods that they've learned, and that tried and tested methods, rather than fumbling in the dark and doing it yourself. But I think that a lot of people still have this stigma that, oh my God, she's got a coach, there must be something wrong with her, she needs help. But that's not what it is. Coaches are not there to, they're thinking about counselors or therapists, which have got different, they're for different reasons. A coach is to push you forward in your life, in your business, and give you ways to succeed. It's not about overcoming problems. I mean, there may be things that come up along the way, obviously, like, you said, self-doubt and mindset and things, but that's not, a coach is not there to give you therapy and counseling, but that's what people still see it as. The amount of people and they're like, I don't understand what you do. It's just not recognized. I think it's becoming more so, but especially in the UK, it's still quite a new thing, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think definitely from the perspective of, a mindset coach, you're right. People sort of go, wait, hold on, mindset coach, wait, surely, people just sort of do that for themselves. And, I've said to countless people, some people don't know how to do that. So you'd be surprised. Like, some people just have no idea why they can't move from A to B to C to D. They just don't know why they're stuck where they are.
Yeah, and until you sort of point out, for example, the example I said about the book that you read in school, until they think about, oh, hold on a minute, I was indoctrinated with that when I was younger, and that's gone on through my life, and that's why work is such a struggle to me, because I was told it had to be. I was told I had to work really hard and long hours and be exhausted if I wanted to be a success. So that's what I'm doing. Maybe you saw your parents, or one of your parents work really long hours, be very successful, earn lots of money, but you didn't see them because they were slaving away at the office or wherever they were. So you associate being successful, having a lot of money, with not spending time with your family. But it doesn't have to be like that. That's just what you're perceiving it to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it takes a lot of mindset shifting, that people don't realize that they have these thoughts until somebody like us comes along and says, oi, just a minute, let's have a look at what you're thinking first. And that's why you step. It's phenomenal. So Megan, how can my audience find you and get in touch with you, or learn more about what you do?
So you can go to my website at www.twentiesthrive.com, and that's where you'll find my coaching programs. And the way that I work with my coaching programs is people can't just buy them on the spot. They have to apply for the programs, and the reason why I do that is I think it's absolutely essential that people have a purpose for why they're doing the program. They need to be committed to changing, and for me, it's the great thing about people applying to the programs is that I can learn a bit of their motivation for applying, why they want to do it, what they want to get from it, and then you can move forward with. I won't take any money from anyone unless I absolutely know that they are right for the program or that the program is right for them.
Yeah, I'm exactly. I by application and interview only. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so you can go to my website, or you can find my podcast. You can Google the podcast. It's on Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, at the Thrive Life Project podcast. And I also you'll find Tara on there too, because I also did an interview with a very interesting interview with Tara. So yes, website, find the podcast on Spotify or Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find me on Instagram. My personal Instagram's at Meggie20thrive, or you can find the podcast Instagram, which is at Thrive Life Project.
Great. So they can get in touch with you, and if they're interested in taking the relationship further, then they can, I guess, book a call with you and see whether or not you're the right fit.
Absolutely.
Sounds perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Megan. I've really enjoyed speaking to you. It's been great. And I'm looking forward to seeing where you go with your business.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to the Happy, Inspired, Motivated podcast. I'll be back next week bringing more meditation, mindset, and motivation for your happy and successful life. To find out more about our community, go to tarachatzakis.com/happy, inspired, motivated.